Peace, peace, peace. Mind Ascension here. Peace to my 6 to 22 strand, 7 to 9 ether, you melanin, selenium base, black gods of this planet. It's been a while, y'all. Definitely has. And you know why it's been a while? Is because I've been incarcerated on YouTube now. So basically this video, I just want to touch base with those who, are loyal to me, are loyal to Mind Ascension, do appreciate the teachings, the lessons, the explanations, the exchanges. I just want to let y'all know and keep giving y'all a heads up and make sure I communicate with y'all. This video is called Arbitrary Imprisonment. So basically, why there's been a while between my videos and making videos is because YouTube has incarcerated me and they just recently released me. Now, I'm going to go into a few different things about the current state and the current era that we're in, which is basically conditioning everything about us today, from how we speak to what we think, so on and so forth. But let's start with myself. Recently, as many of y'all know, I've had this YouTube channel for going on 5 years now. Had this channel for many years now. And only just recently is YouTube starting to dig through my videos going back 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and basically using those videos for justification to basically, how would you say, internet technology incarcerate me. The same thing that other European recessive platforms are doing today to many other people. I'm not the only one, but I do remember a time where it felt like I was the only one because it wasn't as broad and as how would you say, extremely arbitrary and ridiculous as it is now. But basically what they're doing is they're digging through very old videos that I did years ago and using community guideline aspects to basically have justification. Peace, brother. To have justification to basically remove a lot of my videos, put me in jail. The first time they put me in jail for a week. This time they put me in YouTube jail for I think a month or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I'm not even sure how long it really was. But I knew when I was released from YouTube jail because the plus sign on my video icon let me know that I can go live again. So bottom line, it's just quite interesting because I've already did certain forms of, how would you say, oh, peace, I'm sorry, my apologies. Peace, Queen, qualities, uniting, essential, earth, nurturing. Thank you for specifying that. That's very important today that we specify who and what we are by design and energy function and allowing us to know efficiency. I will get into that in a minute. So thank you for correcting me, Queen. Very important. Qualities, uniting, essential, earth, nurturing. Thank you very much for correcting me. And I'm glad you did. Some people don't. I think it's very imperative that we correct people in what we are and what we are not. But that's another subject. Bottom line, as usual, I'm being silenced. As usual, I'm being suppressed. It's so funny because the last video that they removed and they gave me as a form of justification in my email that the video contained nudity and violence or something. It's a whole bunch of stuff. I screenshotted it, so I'll see if I can try to maybe upload it so you guys can see my correspondence between the YouTube family, that seems to find my videos going against guidelines after 5 years of having a YouTube channel. But let's talk about arbitrary imprisonment. And first of all, let's go into the word arbitrary in itself, which is just basically terms, titles, and words and sentences that can mean pretty much anything. And you see, it's so convenient today because we use emotional statements, emotional titles, and emotional terms in order to reject, dismiss, and justify the suppression and the silence of anything that makes logical sense. Now, anybody that knows Mind Ascension, anytime I do a video, anytime I do a correspondence, anytime I do an exchange, anytime I do a webinar, Zoom, whatever it is, I do my best to project and present myself in the most, not just professional, but eloquent, articulate, intelligent, as best as I possibly can. I'm not sitting there cursing people out. I'm not sitting there getting belligerent or whatever the case may be. But it seems very interesting that the more intelligent you speak, the more articulate you are, depending on what you're saying, the more of a threat you are and the more community guidelines you end up breaking. So there really is no direction, and I must admit my human side does get very what do the humans call it? I do get very frustrated because it doesn't matter what I attempt to do. It doesn't matter if I'm vulgar. It doesn't matter if I'm discreet. It doesn't matter what words I use. It doesn't matter if I don't curse. I mean, it really doesn't matter. What matters is what you're saying is truthful and going against the current conditioning of the population. So if you say something that makes too much sense, then you must be silenced and shut down immediately. And YouTube is a quite interesting place because I myself am a very, very big movie buff. I love movies. I love documentaries. I love old movies. I love new movies. I love anything with just a great cast, great acting, great talent. And, I just love great written things and scripts and acting and so on and so forth. So I say this to say that out of my huge, massive movie collection, which is, of course, tangible, DVDs, so on and so forth, when I can't find something, I will turn to YouTube and try to watch something on YouTube or on the internet. And I find it so interesting how YouTube seems to keep slapping me and other people with community guidelines, but yet you can watch movies like Goodbye, Uncle Tom. Anybody who's ever watched Goodbye, Uncle Tom, you would know that that movie is the most explicit movie you can probably ever find in existence of all movies. It is a movie depicting slavery and a mockery, and it's kind of a spiff mockery slash documentary slash, I don't want to call it a comedy, but it's definitely a parody. There's lots of nudity. There's lots of nude children in it. There's rape scenes in it. But I'm not going to talk too much about what's in the movie because that might set off a guideline. But anyway, I watched plenty of explicit, violent, nudity, whatever you want to call it, everything that seems to be a part of a guideline on YouTube. And yet my videos, where it's just a black man speaking into the camera, all of a sudden now I'm being flagged with all of this community guideline stuff. But anyway, let's continue. Now, the thing about arbitrary statements and arbitrary things is they're always at the convenience, perception, and comfort of the person who has the power or the person who is claiming to be the victim in the situation. Let's start with disrespect. Disrespect is a term thrown around a lot, and it's only been recently, within the last 10 to 20 years, been used by our black women the most to justify a certain belligerent behavior in that individual. For example, you're at work, you're minding your business, whatever the case may be. Somebody walks in, they don't say hello, you say hello. Immediately, that's disrespect. And now you feel justified to present yourself in a certain behavior and demeanor towards that person because they were disrespectful. See, these are arbitrary words that really don't mean anything besides the person utilizing them to justify a specific action and behavior. So I can say anything is disrespectful. If you say good morning to me in a tone I don't like, that's disrespectful. I can say the way you walk, the way you talk, how you dress. I can say anything is disrespectful, and then I will be justified in my own mind, in my own ego, in my own perception of reality, because perception is what dictates reality. Peace, brother. Jovan, peace. Perception is what dictates reality. So if in my perception your tone is disrespectful, your walk is disrespectful, your clothing is disrespectful, then immediately I find justification within myself to react to that perceived disrespect in any way I feel fit. Let's go to love. When you see these movements that are portraying certain behavior, and we know what I'm talking about, portraying certain behavior and certain lifestyles as completely natural and normal, the first thing they want to put in front of the movement is love. Love knows no age, love knows no gender, love knows no color, love knows no species, love knows no living thing, dead body or not. So it's an arbitrary word, because guess what? I can love to kill. I'm live proud of you. Thank you, my brother. I can love to hurt people. I can love to burn things down. I can love anything, and I'm not using the word wrong. You see what I'm saying? So When we talk about these guidelines put in place by people that, as we all know, do not resemble us, do not resemble our phenotype, do not resemble our nine-ether follicle, do not resemble our indigenous mindset, let's just be honest. When we use terms and we create, or excuse me, they create guidelines that you have to follow that are enforced by them who've created them and not the people. See, when you're living in a real quote unquote democracy, you allow the population to weigh in on decisions being made. That's not the reality of where we live. They project that because projecting that allows you to take the blame on who is chosen to lead you. So now I can turn, well, you should have voted. Well, that's who you voted for. We all know that that's nonsense. Now, yeah, love is based on a foundation of respect, complementary roles between man and woman. That's love to your perception. And it sounds great, my good brother. But what can I call love? There's people that think you don't love them unless you beat them. There's people that think you don't love them unless you kill for them. So once again, love is, and see, you're making my point, good brother. Love is an arbitrary word. Now, see, if I say it's righteous to rape, I'm using the word wrong because righteousness does not mean that. Righteousness has a specific meaning. Love is only a feeling. So if I say I love to rape, am I using the word wrong? If I say I love to burn down houses, am I using the word wrong? If I say I love to hate, am I using the word wrong? No, I'm not. Because love means anything that gives you a strong feeling. So yes, your explanation of love sounds beautiful, sounds great. And to be honest with you, I agree with you. But it's an arbitrary word and term. And this is why, if you notice, with every movement, with every guideline that's created, they use arbitrary words and terms that you cannot define for yourself. What is hate speech? I'm not allowed to define what's hate speech for myself. Someone else has to come in and tell me that that's hateful. When I get flagged on a social network and they review what I said, they are the ones that deem whether it's hateful or not. Not myself, not others that are my peers, but people that I do not know, people that do not sympathize with my point of view, people that do not utilize the logic and intelligence that I put within the statement, and they are going to deem that statement hateful and remove it from existence. Are we using logic, intelligence, and a specific dynamic in the design as a foundation to what we dictate as love, hate, disrespect, so on and so forth? Or are we just utilizing words that give us the justification to dismiss and erase and suppress anything we feel like who's in power? Because I can't report you if they don't agree with me that what you said is wrong. I could feel hated on all day long. I could feel disrespected all day long. But if a group of people who I do not know, if a group of people who do not look like me, if a group of people who are not aware of my circumstances and my thinking does not agree with me that I was disrespected or that I was being hated on or whatever the case that might be, guess what? It's going to stay. And how I feel doesn't matter at all. That's another thing. Let's go into that. Feeling, how you feel inside. Now, the beautiful thing about arbitrary words is they're very convenient. You can pick and choose when it is or when it's not. So if you call me a cis man, if you call me a cisgender, and I feel terrible about that, I feel disrespected about that, I feel like you are disrespecting my nature and natural design, can I stop you from saying it? Is the law and are the people that enforce your terms that you agree with going to enforce how I feel about what you're using against me? Is that fair? Is that consideration? Because remember, they named you and named themselves. You didn't get a vote. You didn't get to agree. Okay, yeah, cis, you want to call me a cis? No problem. I'm a cis. I agree with that. That sounds good. I'll take that. Nobody came to you and asked you for your agreement and how you feel about it. Did they? When they bring your comments and the things you do up for review, are they questioning why you said it? Are they taking in consideration your point of view and how you feel inside about what you felt was right at the time to express with your freedom of speech? Don't know what that is anymore. Did anybody take the time to put your feelings and considerations before they removed your existence, your comment, your mindset, your thinking, and your evaluation from any circumstance? Or did they not go by their own perception, their own judgment, and their own definition of what you think is right? All I'm doing is asking very simple questions, not cursing, not being belligerent, not dancing around naked, not beating nobody on camera, just asking simple questions here. So they're using arbitrary aspects to dismiss and erase logical, reasonable, and intelligent conclusions, assumptions, statements, and expressions of people who take the time to take in consideration their current existence, the current circumstances of today's reality, and utilize intelligence to form conclusions and make expressions about it. Now, can these expressions be done better? Sure. You know, that's another thing. Bringing that subject up, why isn't there a form of suggestion in how you express your views today? You know, consideration is a very powerful thing. You know, before you remove what I'm saying, why not try to understand what I'm saying? And then after understanding it, make a suggestion on a better way to say it. Why not give me alternatives on how to express myself instead of erasing my entire expression? Why not present alternatives to health instead of just giving me something that can possibly kill me and that's experimental? See, intelligence makes you think about these things. But let's continue. Love, disrespect, love, and hate. All arbitrary terms that can mean anything that you choose it to mean. I can feel disrespected right now because nobody's in here and nobody's talking. Oh, that's disrespectful. Why are you not interacting? I could do that, but I'm not. I can feel hated by a lack of support. I can feel people hate me. I could do that, but I'm not. And mind you, whatever I feel won't change anything for me. You know why? Because I don't control what is the reality of your life and what you say and how you think. Another group of people does that don't even know you. But let's continue. Disrespect, love, hate, all arbitrary words that mean absolutely nothing only to the individual utilizing them. And then secondly, to the person in power who's going to enforce the consequence for those words. He was very confusing. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Now, in this day and age where everything is based on how you feel, but only how you feel if we agree with what you feel is right to us, which is another group of people. That's not you. In this current era, where everything is based on how you feel and how we tell you whether what you're feeling is hateful, not hateful, right, wrong, correct, incorrect, fact checkers, so on and so forth. We're simultaneously conditioning the current generation and the future generation to not have discernment, which is great if you want to make everyone a slave. See, when I hear a comment or I hear a critique or a criticism, immediately by my left brain, I'm attempting to discern what's being said, why it's being said, the reason why it's being said. And then just maybe, if I'm a really secure type of person and genuine type of person, I might take my own behavior into consideration by what's being said. And this will give me the opportunity to change my behavior and to become a better man or a better woman. But when I live in a society that will erase anything that's said about me based on how they feel, then what gives me the opportunity to discern from something that is correct, incorrect, or that is positive criticism to allow me to improve myself into a higher character? Are y'all following me? If you take away all forms of criticism from a child, and then they grow into an adult who's never faced any form of criticism, what kind of adult do you think that creates? Are they going to react emotionally most times? Are they going to feel justified in their actions and their behavior? What kind of consequences will they receive from this emotional reaction and these behaviors and these actions? How will they learn to discern from something that is a positive criticism between something that is a negative attack? How do you learn to discern that if you erase all critique? Just asking simple questions here. See, we're doing something that's conditioning in a generation of weakness, and something that I'm thankful to have grown up in an era to where they taught something about having thick skin. And, I would like to add this. This type of conditioning also attributes to violence and suicide. Because when I'm a very weak person who can't take the internet cyberbullying me, what the hell is cyberbullying? There's an off button on your screen, buddy. You can always turn off the internet, pal. What is a cyberbully? See, if you notice, this era wants to enable the generation to feel nothing that will teach them discernment and will teach them a form of strength in their character, to be able to hear things that don't agree with them or make them feel absolutely positively right all the time. So then what that does is it conditions me to reject anything that doesn't agree with me, and then makes me feel justified in the behavior that I project after that disagreement. So now I call you hateful and I lash out at you because you're being hateful, and I'm justified in my reaction. We are conditioning weakness in a generation. We are transforming lies and delusions into false realities. And we do not understand the extreme detrimental outcome that comes with warping the subconscious and the mind of a human being who is designed to discern one thing from another by utilizing intelligence. When I take away your ability to decide whether something is a criticism or not, when I take away your ability to express yourself openly, I'm taking away your ability to think critically. I'm taking away your ability to actually become a leader. I'm taking away your ability to form conclusions based on logic and intelligence. Now, how might that be beneficial? To whom and how? Who is benefiting off a population that lives without critical thinking? Who is benefiting off a population that lives and believes only what they're told from another group or hierarchy? Who benefits from that? Let's go into passivity. Once I take away your discernment, once I take away what our mothers and fathers and our grandparents used to call thick skin, once I take away that character of strength and resilience, which doesn't exist anymore, now I'm creating a generation of passivity. I'm creating a generation of victim mindsets, to where everything makes you a victim and therefore justified in your behavior. I'm creating a generation of passive males who never stand up for anything, or who never go against the current agenda or the current narratives that are destroying the foundation of the mindset and the futures that are going to come forth from this generation. I'm creating a passive thought process. I'm creating a passive reaction that allows a longer and a larger group to be conditioned by another group and to be under complete control by that group. See, today, every form of masculinity is demonized unless it's masculinity coming from a female. Understand what I just said. See, a so-called lesbian, let me be careful with my terms, a female who is attracted to the same sex, but yet who prefers to play a more masculine role within that relationship, her masculinity is never toxic. Anybody ever notice that? Anybody ever notice the only masculinity that's toxic is in this society is the masculinity portrayed by an actual biological male? Anybody notice that? There's no such thing as toxic masculinity being projected on females who portray themselves as men. There's no toxic masculinity being projected on females who portray themselves as women, but yet take the same actions, behavior, tendencies as the so-called abusive and ignorant males of our past. Anybody paying attention to this? The only time masculinity becomes a threat or becomes something negative to the population, which has been conditioned within that mind of the population, is when it's masculine traits conducted by an actual biological male. I find that very interesting because I grew up in communities where, as we should know, in the melanin dominant community in urban areas, or the black community in the current and modern ghettos, inner cities, whatever you like to call it, we're known for openly accepting the quote-unquote lesbian, the quote-unquote dyke, so on and so forth. We see it in our TV shows, whether you're watching The Wire, whether you listen to rap music and you're talking about the Young Mas and the Snoops and all of these things. You know, it's very much embraced by the black community, both male and female. Now, these same females portray masculine tendencies to an extreme. These same females can be just as abusive. These same females can be just as violent, but yet they do not get tagged with the toxic masculine notion. Neither does the female who doesn't portray herself as a quote-unquote lesbian or dyke, but yet still displays the same violent behavior, whether it's blowing up her ex-boyfriend's car, whether it's burning down her husband's mansion, whether it's cutting up his clothes and throwing his property out the window, whether it's literally physically abusing that husband, boyfriend, physically, fighting him, kicking him, biting him, punching him, stabbing him, so on and so forth. These are not considered toxic feminine or toxic masculine traits towards the female. But that's another video. I don't want to go into that. The point I'm making, and I'm going to wrap this up. Arbitrary imprisonment. It's what's happening to me today, and it's what's happening to many others who seem to use any type of intellect and logical conclusion based on an observation of today's society. When I see something that doesn't make sense and I voice the comparisons of how it doesn't make sense, all of a sudden I'm breaking a guideline. All of a sudden I'm being hateful. When I observe something that goes against the design of my male anatomy, or that goes against the design of a female anatomy, and I point out that design which denotes a dysfunction, then I'm being hateful. Before I wrap this up, let's talk about bigotry, because that's another very special and arbitrary word that the letter gang and other mobs like to use today. And one thing I've noticed about the current human in these mobs and these letter gangs is they actually don't even know what the words mean that they're utilizing. They're just regurgitating what they've been conditioned to say by another group of people that they don't get to see. If you look up the definition of bigot, it's anyone who rejects the opinion, feeling, or beliefs of another. Now, when I state, as a traditional, indigenous-minded, melanin-dominant 9-ether male on this planet, aka so-called indigenous cultured black man, when I state that it's a tradition for a man to be with a woman and only life comes from the union of man and woman, I am now a bigot. But yet the same one calling me a bigot is rejecting my belief and my opinion and deeming me a bigot while simultaneously conducting bigot behavior. Did y'all catch what I just said? When somebody rejects how you feel about the current narratives going on in this society and tells you that you're ignorant, tells you that you're stupid, tells you that you're all the different things they want to use in order to belittle you, and almost a form of defamation to your character, and then lastly put the cherry on it and call you a bigot after rejecting your opinion, your belief, your feelings, they just became a bigot themselves. And see, this is how you know when the human doesn't even understand what they're saying or what they're doing themselves. Because the fact that you're rejecting how I feel about a certain lifestyle or a certain living or a certain action, and then you call me a bigot for not agreeing with yours, you just became a bigot. And unfortunately, this is what happens when you don't use intelligence and you use belief and use feelings. I love how we live in a society today where everything is about how you feel inside, but yet no one cares how the people feel that don't agree with them. Isn't that interesting? I have to care how you feel inside about what you are or who you are. I have to respect. I have to follow and obey what you want me to refer to you as based on how you feel. But who is taking consideration about how I feel about all of that? Is that equality? Where is the consideration in this society? Where is the mutual foundation of respect? Or is it only one-sided to one specific group? Or is it only one-sided to one specific narrative, to one specific thinking? And if you do not agree with that thinking or that group, then I have now magically deemed you, pow, hateful, pow, disrespectful, pow, a bigot. All of these magical, arbitrary terms that mean nothing except to the individual utilizing them who has the superior group behind them. Because if I feel any of those words towards you, nothing will happen. Because that group that supports you and that controls the definition and the dictation of these words will never support how I feel. And they won't even try to take into consideration how I feel. Notice you're always saying, your comment is in review. Fact checkers are reviewing the facts. Are they reviewing how you feel? Are they reviewing your perception? Are they reviewing your information? Are they reviewing where you came up with this? Are they reviewing your sources? Or are they just using their own personal perception, their own personal definition to come to a conclusion which leads to you 1000% of the time rejected, silenced, dismissed, or erased? Thankful and grateful and thankful forever and always and forever. I'm forever thankful and grateful for those of you, the small handful of you that support me, that have always been there. I know it's a tiny few, and I understand why. I'm thankful and grateful for those of you who are truly the family, who have made donations, love offerings, who have utilized my consultations, who have utilized my Q viewings, aka readings. I'm very thankful for y'all who have really been there with me, especially those who've been there from day one, these 5 years, probably going on 6 now, that I've been doing this work. that I've been working very hard to put together specific lessons that I don't see others doing, that I've been working very hard to give in-depth explanations and breakdowns to certain, how would you say, lessons, information, and establishments that I really don't see many doing. I give great appreciation to those who promote, who share me. It's very small few of y'all, but the very small hand, which is why I'm always talking about the handful. Yes, there's a lot of y'all that just look at me. You hear me. See, hearing and listening are two different things. There's a lot of you that look at me, that watch me, that hear me, but it's a very small handful that listen. It's a very small handful that apply. It's a very small handful that support. It's a very small handful that promote. It's a very small handful that share. So for the small handful of you that do that, I truly do love you to the depths of my human heart and to the heights of my divine soul, intellect, and spirit. Arbitrary imprisonment. This is where we're at right now. Everything you say, everything you think, if it does not follow and support the current narrative, then you will be silenced. You will be dismissed. Anything that you express, anything that you make that others can see, that a special group that you've never seen before, that doesn't know you, that doesn't care to know you, that doesn't care to take in consideration how you feel, they will remove those videos. I've had videos removed that weren't even posted. It's definitely a challenge. On the human side, it's definitely frustrating. Still here like I've always been for years now. But at the end of the day, you really have to ask yourself. You really have to. And you know, one more thing I want to touch on is the reluctance that this current society creates. Because now there's so many men and a few women who are reluctant to even say anything anymore. Because not only does it build that passivity, not only does it build that enabling, especially within the damn children, but now it builds this reluctance to even speak any form of truth because you're afraid to be shut down. I know there's a lot of popular conscious people who specifically don't support me because they just don't want to be flagged, because they just don't want to be shut down. They don't want to be associated with me, knowing that I'm constantly being removed and I'm constantly being deleted and blah, blah, blah. Even though now in 2021, everybody's going through it, because now you can't say anything. You can't say anything that make any type of sense. So I know at this level, and what do I always teach y'all? Everything is levels. See, once y'all allow one thing to come through the door, y'all gotta understand everything is following that. And I mean, I do understand why humans don't see it, but it is quite frustrating because you let in one form of dysfunction, you let in one form of sickness, and then you get upset or mad when a series of other sicknesses follow. And wait a second, this is okay, but that's not okay. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. The false notion of equality, but then rejecting a specific group of people who like something else that you wasn't conditioned to accept as yet, but you're being conditioned to accept right now. It's y'all know what I'm talking about, you know. And then how easy it is to condition a human to have the green light. I'll give you a perfect example. Hitler. We've all been conditioned to openly hate Hitler. Like, if I start saying a whole bunch of shit about Hitler, fuck Hitler, Hitler needs to die, kill Hitler, anybody that's like Hitler needs to die, they're not going to flag that video because we've all been conditioned to hate Hitler, which tells you who runs our current media. But I can make a video putting somebody in a Hitler costume, chopping off their head, burning them, hanging them, anything I want, and nobody's going to bother that video because we've all been conditioned to hate Hitler. But nobody has ever taken consideration what Hitler actually did. Nobody ever took in consideration Hitler's actual perception and mindset during the time Germany was going through what it was going through that put Hitler into power. Nobody goes into Hitler's backstory. Nobody wants to give you anything about Hitler that might give you a foundation to what made Hitler who he is. They only want you to hate him. But why is that? I thought we're not supposed to hate anything or anybody. But notice how we have this specific choice and convenience of what we should hate, when we should hate it, how we should hate it. Because I can remember as long as I've been alive and as long as anybody's been alive, especially in this country, well, shoot, anywhere around the world that you go, Hitler's the devil. Everybody knows. You don't even have to know anything about him. You hear Hitler, you just know to hate Hitler. As my spiritual father, Malcolm, would say, I'm very wary of who white people tell me to hate. I'm very wary of who the dominant society tells me to reject and who to dislike and who to discredit and not listen to. Immediately, anybody with intelligence will go into the backstory of that individual to find out what makes him so hated, to find out the actions and behaviors he took upon himself that created the hate for him, instead of just following that he should be hated. So I'm using Hitler as an example because the current human is so conditioned that you're taught what to reject and you're taught what to hate and you're taught what to embrace and what to call normal and what to call natural. And no human that I know today is using any form of discernment, any form of consideration, any form of intelligence to form a conclusion of why they're being told to hate something or why they're being told to accept something. They're just openly accepting it. I want to talk about one more thing. Pardon me, family. Can't afford a new phone still, so my phone does little funny things. I just want to make sure that I can be heard and that y'all hearing me. Y'all not hearing weird sounds and all of that. But anyway, one thing also that goes into this is our false sense of illusion that we seem to cling to no matter what. I just had I don't even know what to call it, discussion or whatever it was in my comments on my I just had a discussion somewhere, and it was on the subject of barbering and doing hair and so on and so forth. Yes, I will be posting this. And one thing about humans is they're so conditioned to embrace and accept everything that society tells them to, right? That we're not even allowed to notice our differences. So the subject was about a black man who walked into a barbershop, which most likely was of 6 ether base, either 6 ether Europeans or 6 ether Spaniards. And he asked them, can anybody cut his hair? And the person said they only work by appointment, and then wanted to refer them to another barber who I'm sure was not of a 9 ether follicle. And they probably took on the assumption that this person and this barber who was not of 9 ether could not be capable of providing the service that he wanted or style as a 9 ether being that he was. Now immediately, of course, oh, this is ridiculous, this is that, this is this, this is that, and that. And of course, I had to point out the absolute biological, genetic, and phenotypical factors that my 9 ether hair will never have the same outcomes as a 6 ether follicle. It just won't. I have to go through a separate process to chemicalize my 9 ether if I want to achieve a specific style that a 6 ether European recessive base being can do, or creature. Now, of course, this was made, oh, that's wrong, and that's this, and any barber should be able to cut this and cut it. So I ask you, if a white man sits in your hair as a highly skilled barber, can you give him an afro trim because you're a highly skilled barber? Can I give a white man a high top fade, high top like a box? That comes from us. That don't come from white people. I don't care what you say. That's not a high top fade. That's a fade with a bob. That's not a high top fade. They call it a high top because there's a flat top to it. That's by a style and design, which comes from a 9 ether ability. Oh, that's wrong. That's this. That. I went into this whole thing. And I'm not stating about the ability of one man or one individual to complete or achieve a design or a style. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the phenotype, the genetic aspect, the follicle that grows out of my crown, compared to another phenotype, another genetic aspect, and the follicle that grows out of their crown, and which one will be most likely to achieve the desired effect? One who has never encountered a nine ether crown, or one who lives amongst and is born with a nine ether crown? Now, of course, today this all sounds, I don't even want to say the R word, but this all sounds this and that because we're conditioned to not notice differences. Yet every single day, somebody knows to ask your black ass, where you from, where you going, where's your ID, and do you live here? They can see you and they ask you those questions. It's very frustrating being in a society that teaches delusions are reality. It's very frustrating living in a society that teaches us feelings are the truth. This is right brain dominance. Anybody that studies the hemispheres of the brain knows that the right brain deals with imagination. If you want to catch somebody in a lie, look at them as they look up. Are they looking right or are they looking left? When they're looking right, they're usually trying to dig through the right brain to find an imaginative explanation. If they're looking left, they're usually digging through the database of their brain to find the factual information. But anyway, the arbitrary imprisonment of this time and era. Love is an arbitrary word. It can mean anything you want it to mean. And women, y'all should know that, because there's men that tell you they love you all the time and have no actions and no behavior whatsoever to it. But they can damn sure say the word 1,000 times. And who are you to say that they don't love you? By your definition of love? There's people that say they hate someone so much, but follow everything they do, talk about them constantly, think about them constantly. To me, that's love. But that's my definition. Disrespect, another arbitrary word. It's time we use intelligence. From day one, the foundation of my teaching has always been divinity and intelligence. The majority of the population is not using intelligence today. Every human that I speak to reaches for exceptions to justify dysfunctions and misbehaviors. I have an uncle's, cousin's, sister's, brother's, nephew who doesn't do that. My dad didn't do that. I don't do that. You will never see me use myself as an example to something that I know is a majority. When a woman tells me men do A, B, and C, my first response is, I don't do that. That's not my first response. My first response is, you're absolutely right. Now, who raised those men the last 30, 40, 50 years? Where did their value, where did their treatment, where did the basis of what they see and deem in society as respectful, disrespectful, woman, man, roles, all of these different things that today is a complaint and a problem, where did it come from in the first place? Appreciate that, brother. But anyway, source over surface. See, those who are intelligent always seek the source of any situation. They always take in consideration the entire equation. They take in consideration all parties, all angles. The God eye and the God mind see everything from every angle before it forms a conclusion. It doesn't always only see your baby's side. Oh, that's my baby. My baby wouldn't do this. My baby wouldn't do that. My baby that. It doesn't only see your personal side. It doesn't only see the side of the person that looks like them. It doesn't only see the side of the person in authority, but it looks from every possible angle and perception to add together in order to form a rightful conclusion. Anyone who's not taking everything in consideration, time of day, temperature, geography, all parties involved, time frame, era, year, culture, region. If they're not taking all these things involved, then they're not utilizing what I call God mind, and they're not utilizing intelligence. A God is a scientist. They do not use judgments and personal perceptions and personal preferences to form conclusions. They conduct numerous experiments and observe multiple conclusions and follow the conclusion that dominates in the majority. Mind Ascension, I love y'all that love me. I love y'all that hate me. I'm thankful and grateful for the handful of you. I'm going to wrap this up. All consultations, all divination, all donations, please do not hesitate. The number is 646-575-8305. All consultation, all divinations. The number is 646-575-8305. All donations, all love offerings. $ Mind Ascension, one word, number 1. All donations, all love offerings. $ Mind Ascension 1. I truly appreciate y'all. Truly love y'all. And the arbitrary imprisonment is right now what your brother Mind Ascension is facing as a challenge. And I'm accepting the challenges as I've always had. Peace to the Divine Black family.